Good morning, everyone. I still haven't fixed my tripod yet. I have to drive into town. So I may do that after I make this video. But I've got the geese right behind me here. They were having some bread. We break bread together. I got a comment from somebody not on the channel, but somebody here, and said, how can you be an actor and be a Christian? Come on here. Stop falling down. Well, I'll start off by asking the question back. How can you be a cook and be an actor? How can you be a doctor and be an actor, or a lawyer? Anything. Pick a career. It's got nothing to do with anything. There are bad cooks, bad lawyers, bad doctors. Does that mean you should never enter that profession? No. Don't be a bad actor. Now, it used to be most people would pick a job because they wanted to. They had a passion for that type of work, whatever it is. If you're a nurse, you have a passion for helping people. If you're a teacher, same way, helping children grow up. You have a passion for that. Money didn't matter. I think the last 10, 20 years, money has become the most important thing. I was listening to Mike Rowe talking, and he was talking about, I think it was like 78% of the people with a job are unhappy with their job. You're going to do whatever you do for a living for a long time. I've been fortunate enough that I've had multiple careers, so I can choose. But most people can't. You get a job, you work there for 50 years, you retire, and you get a gold watch, if you're lucky. You can't be miserable with your work. You've got to love your work. Look where I get to do my work now. Now, I haven't always been able to do this. This is fairly new. Yeah, the birds are all out here. I don't know if I can get this up. There's one right there. I got to be careful with this tripod because it's not stable. Every time I move it, I got to adjust a little bit. There we go. I was in the Navy at a wartime, in a war that most people consider was a bad war. There was no need to be in it at a certain point. We may have been drawn into it trying to help, but it was a bad war. And the people, because the media was coming into their own of finding out how much power they had, they were attacking the military. It wasn't good to be in the service then. I've literally had rocks thrown at me because I'm a Vietnam vet. Didn't stop me, I'm still going, but I got into computers. Now, computers can be used for good or for bad. The internet is basically in place because of pornography. That helped pay for the development of it. There was a reason to invest money in it, to make money. Pornography. Now, it's not that now. Now it's just plain, everybody's heads down, they're not talking to each other, they're looking at their phones. It's become bad. You can do good with things if your heart is good. I got to put my glasses on because I haven't cut these into my big text. 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whether you eat, drink, or whatever you do do it all for the glory of God. I've got more verses here to throw in. It's your motivation of why you're doing stuff. AI is not bad, but it can be. People don't realize the Nobel Peace Prize that they give out to people, which really is a political tool nowadays, but it had its good meaning. Nobel invented TNT. Atomic energy can be used to power a power plant or a bomb. Human beings can be good, evil, spiritual. We have a large range that we can be at. Be careful judging, because we don't all come from the same mold. I eventually worked on a satellite system for the military. They go, okay, you're going to help blow up the world. Well, I don't think so, because this was a communication satellite. Now again, you can do good or bad things with anything in this world. Guns don't kill people. The people using the guns kill people. But the devil would have you believe it's the other way around. Well, if that's the case, then we need to take away pencils, because people write bad things with pencils and pens. Don't arrest people for drunk driving. Arrest the cars for driving. It's the car's fault that people were drunk. See, Satan likes to twist things around, and it's happening more and more today than ever. Don't let him do that to you. It's what you do. You have to be happy with your life. And God can make you happy anywhere. Paul had probably a very good life up until he met Jesus. And then his personal life probably went down. But he seemed to be the happiest at that point in time. He was happy singing songs in prison with the prisoners. Now, I don't know what he's like before that. He seemed to be, in order to be able to get an education to do what he was doing, he had to come from a wealthy family. Connected, obviously, because he's a Roman citizen. But he found that what he was doing was wrong, and he changed on a dime. Turned around and went 180 degrees the opposite direction, with just as much fervor as he had before, but in the right direction. God might be giving you an opportunity to change. Don't reject it because it's a direction you've never been in before. If God is instructing you, he's telling you to do something, look for a way to do what he's asking you to do. You're welcome to test. God says, test me. We have the golden fleece test in the Bible. God doesn't mind you making sure it's true from him, because the devil's going to be in there. But if you're talking to God and you're praying and you're sin-free at the moment because you've confessed to Jesus, we can be momentarily sin-free. We just can't be sin-free forever, or more than an hour, depending on what type of sin we're looking at. See the little goose's head over there on my shoulder. We will be 100% sin-free when we get to heaven, but we're not there yet. So you kind of have to fall off the bike, get back on. God help me, forgive me, get back on, and get back at it. Do what your heart desires in life. We'd be all very boring if every one of us was a preacher. There was only one high priest in the Jewish camp. He had helpers, but there was only one high priest. And they were worried about him being high priest. So much so that they would tie a rope around his ankle when he'd go into the Holy of Holies, just in case he had some sin in there that he wasn't even aware of and died, and they could pull him out because nobody else was going to go in there. Find your calling. You need to be the exception, not the 78% of people who are unhappy with their work. You need to find what you're happy with. Okay, it doesn't pay as much. Adjust your lifestyle. Now, it's harder today, I understand, because of the cost of everything. But find a way to make it work. Find somebody you can make it work with. Sometimes two people carrying a heavy object makes it lighter. God's always going to be in the mix as a Christian, but he's not physically down here, so you might have to find somebody else to help carry the load. Life is too short. Even at the best of times, we have less than 100 years. We're seeing people now, celebrities, a lot of them, are at that 100-year mark, and we're going to start seeing them die one by one, as we get further along. Are we going to be out of here this year? Dr. Barry Oss seems to think so. I think he's got August, the middle of August. He's very astute and knows the Bible very well. He's got the most marked up Bible I've ever seen. He knows the stuff. I wish I could remember half of what he knows, but I can't. That's not how my brain works. So God uses me the way my brain works. I have nothing to talk about, and I turn the camera on and say, okay, God, you're on, and here, give me something to talk about. I can give you 15, 20 minutes of me telling you stories about God. Like right now, I don't have anything really written down. I have a few verses here that I can read to you from, just because I think you need to hear from the Bible every time I talk. And a lot of times I will give you a verse without knowing the verse. Because I can remember the stories, but I can't remember where it's at. Want another verse? Get my glasses up here. James 1:5. If anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask God. Whatever your need is, this is just an example. Whatever your need is, ask God. Let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. God loves to please his people. If you're a Christian, we're adopted into his people. We are chosen to present God to the world. If we're struggling, if we're upset, if we're yelling at people, if we're cursing up a storm, if we're drunk all the time, we're not being a representation of God. Now, we can all have individual little things that we're dealing with. That's okay. God will help you to work through those. But as a general rule, we have to look good. I told you this before. Billy Graham often traveled with a woman in the car. They'd go to some place, he'd bring his secretary, it may or may not be his wife, somebody, he's doing business, he's going someplace. But he would never travel alone with another woman in the car. There'd have to be at least a third person. He didn't want to have anyone saying anything. There was always a witness. Got to have 3 or more in the Bible. So we always had 3 in the car. We have an image to uphold. And if the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, they need to see that. If we're not seeing that, something's wrong. Typically sin. We can be overworked. That's why in Psalm 23 it says He makes us to lay down in green pastures. Makes us. Because sometimes we just are doing too much. There are millions of people out there that need to be saved, and we can't save them all individually. It's the Spirit that does the work. Don't misread that. But God will not send us 1 million people to save unless we can do something with the media. Now, I only have 3,800 followers. Only. That's more followers than most churches in Georgia, or in any state for that matter. So I'm grateful that you're all here. But there are churches that have in attendance 20 to 30,000 people or more. Billy Graham would fill up a stadium full of people of 100,000 or more. Are they all being saved? The ones that come down? We can hope that they're all saved, but I would say that a good percentage of them probably aren't. People will say what they need to say to get you to accept them, or to get you off their back, one or the other. We can't judge. We have to assume if somebody says they're a Christian that they are. But you can tell a tree by its fruit. So there should be some signs. Romans 2:24, for it is written, the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you. He's writing to the Romans. They were not setting a good example. If you're in a position, a visible position of authority, then you've got to set a good example. I have been fortunate enough to have so many job titles during my life because I love to do things, but I get bored. So I do something for a little while, and I'll do something else afterwards. I have to assume that I'm going to get bored with this eventually, but God said that I'm supposed to be filming this during the rapture. So if that's coming up soon, I won't get bored because I still love doing what I'm doing. But eventually, 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, I had one job that I'd had for 20 years. So I can hold a job. But towards the end, I was bored with it. Because I like exploring. And that's what I like about acting. I get to do different things. I have learned some things in films that I didn't know before I was in the film. I was in the movie Hidden Figures. I'm in 2 separate scenes. Hidden Figures, these women at NASA, black women, weren't even allowed to use the white bathrooms if you watch the movie. Now, Kevin Costner's character says, and forgive the language, we all pee yellow. Use the bathrooms. The one black lady was having to go a mile away to her black area to use the bathrooms, and he put a stop to that. I'm in the courtroom scene where the one lady is applying to go to an all-white school. I'm in the front row of the attorneys or whatever we were behind her. I'm also in a scene where Kevin Costner is speaking to Congress. I'm a couple of people back from him. I did not know that story, and I'm a big NASA fan, or at least I was, I'm not now, a big science fiction, going to space fan. NASA's an embarrassment now because the government is an embarrassment, and it's rippling into all the different departments. They launched a spaceship up to the space station, and they don't want to come back because they don't think the capsule will survive it. Now they're going to pick a date sometime, I think in July, middle of July, to come back. But there's no guarantee. Dumb. Because they rushed. SpaceX is showing up everybody. Is SpaceX a solution? I don't know. Elon Musk, is he a Christian? I don't know. And that's a problem. Still pray for people. He at least tries to keep the dogs at bay, if you will. The censoring that was going on at Twitter, I almost quit Twitter. And then when he bought it, I could see that I had a chance there. I've almost given up my Facebook. I'm down to just some few family members and some of my independent film stuff, but that's it. I had all the maximum numbers. The 5,000 personal ones, another 2,000 or 3,000 business ones. I had all that until they started filtering me. I stopped using Facebook for general stuff. Like I said, some family members asked me to come back because it's the only way they had to keep track of me. You sometimes have to have a presence, but it doesn't have to be much. Jesus ate with tax collectors because you have to. You have to get out in the world and you have to talk to people. And you have to be happy with what you're doing. I have been fortunate that God has given me pretty much everything that I've asked for, except for wealth. I've been able to get by on minimal. I don't know that I would do well with wealth. I probably wouldn't be a good person with wealth. So God has kept it from me, and I'm grateful. There are people that can use it, but most people can't, especially if you didn't grow up with it. My dad had a lot of wealthy friends, very wealthy friends, billionaires. But he didn't want their money, so they liked having him around. So we didn't have a lot. We were middle class or upper middle class, but we were never going to be considered wealthy. So I'm happy at where I'm at. Look at my view. And you're not 100% seeing that accurately because there's a mesh behind me. If I didn't have the mesh, this tent would be full of bugs. Find something that you love to do. Now maybe you've got too many bills to be able to give up on your current job. Set some goals. Pay the bills off. Get a little bit of a nest egg. Now, I don't know how much time we've got left. You know, you can't go to your accountant and say, I'm 65 and I want to retire next year. How much money do I need in the bank? Can I start putting money in now? If you would have put $500 into an account when you were 20, it might be worth $1 million at 65. Most people don't save. That is why Social Security is considered supplemental income. It's not supposed to sustain you, but it does for most. You need to be happy. And the happiness comes from the Spirit within you. I keep saying this. We're the only religion where the Spirit of God lives in us. We don't become gods, but we have the Spirit of God in us. Connections. A God who wants to please us, but also doesn't want to spoil us. He knows the limits. He knows each one of us better than we know ourselves. So if you ask for something and you get it, He knows you can handle it, or will learn to handle it in His care. If you don't get it, maybe you're not ready. Don't spend the few months maybe left being miserable. Life's too short, even if it's years. Don't be miserable. Find the joy in the Lord. The joy in the Lord is my strength. Find that. Okay, I got to get one more verse in here. Okay. Matthew 5:14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. You should know these verses. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all those in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. People are going to look at you. Who are they going to see? What are they going to see? I need to start putting some color back in my beard, don't I? I haven't been working because I've been driving. That seems to be my new weekly job, is to drive people. Maybe another day of driving for my friend who needs dialysis. I don't know. It's one of those that I can't stop doing it because he doesn't have anybody else. But there's a time that you've got to try to. What's happening with the light? You've got to try to help. Come on, light, stop this. I think the sun's maybe moving behind a cloud. I didn't need my light, but if it's going to start playing with me out there, I'll have to turn it on. Okay. Help people while you can. But don't be overburdened. It's okay to say no up to a point. But be truthful. Do you have something, other obligation that you cannot get away from? I can't work while I'm doing all this driving. Especially two different people on different days. I'll drive my son, but if I can get a way to figure out how to have him, I'll drive him one way and he can Uber back, just so that I have, but if I have to drive him one way, I've already used up the day. So that's the problem I've got. But he is only 2 days. And I might be able to I can put one day on a weekend, so I think I can get him over on Saturday. So I really only have 1 day. I can usually find work around that. But right now, I'm driving 4 to 5 days a week right now, and pray for that to end if God wants it. If God wants me to do this, I'll keep doing it. The park is quiet now. People have moved out. I'm grateful for that. The noisy people. And they're here having fun. I can't deny people that. But I need quiet to work. All right. God's coming back soon. Watch Barry's latest video. Be prepared for sensory overload, though, because he's got so much up here. He's got pictures for everything. And he's a little crazy with his skeleton, talking skeleton. It can be entertaining, as long as it's not distracting. The other people out there have their point of views. Don't shut down point of views unless you're 100%. I tell people, if you've got the gospel right, you can agree to disagree on some of this eschatology stuff, end time stuff. Because we hope we're right, but we're not sure. We get the gospel right, and then we'll meet each other in heaven one way or the other. Until we meet in the clouds. God bless.